Today is October 1st. Welcome on in to Daily Cards Live here on ClavesOnline.com. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Bob Ramsey. Rammer, it's the start of the 2024 postseason wild card round. It gets ready to go in a little over an hour from right now. All four games are being played today and the next 2 days, as it's a best of three series once again, as baseball has expanded the postseason in recent years and makes for some fun games the first couple days.
It is the high holy days. You know, we get those in October and March. And so I'm as excited as I can be. And I'll have games on all day, even while I'm doing radio. That's just between you and me. Very excited. I feel bad for the Diamondbacks. They just had to sit and watch that double header yesterday between the Mets and the Braves. And what had to happen to knock them out happened. They needed a Mets sweep once they won the first game. And I feel bad for them. They being the Diamondbacks, had some ups and downs, but their offense was really pretty fun to watch all year. But they're on the outside looking in, and that's how baseball go.
It really was an interesting situation yesterday in that game, and the emotions of the Diamondbacks and their fans going into it, just knowing that. I mean, when you have, it's one thing to win a game and rest your players, and then to talk about the morals of it, and is that the right thing to do? Well, when you have a playoff game the very next day, then yeah, winning that first game, you go do whatever the hell you want in that second game because you don't want to throw anybody that has to get ready to throw. So knowing that from the Diamondback standpoint yesterday had to be just brutal. Kudos for the Mets for actually putting out a real lineup. I know Pete Alonso was lineup in game 2. I mean, the fact that they weren't pulling Keith Hernandez down from the booth to bat third yesterday was shocking to me. But then, I mean, the emotions of it and knowing, the Braves being like, okay, we got to win, but they're probably not going to throw anybody good against us. Oh, shoot, we just lost Chris Sale to back spasms. Now what are we? I mean, just the roller coaster of that was, I mean, not to mention the game itself in that first one, the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. Oh my goodness, that was a lot of fun yesterday watching those two games play out.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks had to feel reasonably good that Chris Sale was out, but that's what team is all about. Somebody else stepped up and did the job, and again, feel bad for the Diamondbacks, but that's baseball. You got to win more games, and today and the rest of the month, I think, are going to be pretty exciting. I think the heavy favorites to be in the World Series would be the Dodgers and the Yankees, but I think you can make a reasonable, a very reasonable scenario for just about anybody of this group to get to the World Series.
I think one of the big things as we are about to get into the actual games today, knowing that the Yankees, the Guardians, the Phillies, and the Dodgers right now, I mean, that's a full week off for them. It is they are not playing again until the weekend. That's you can sit and you can map out your pitching for those, and everybody can be well rested and ready to go. For the Yankees, maybe a guy like Rizzo is able to come back and get healthy by this weekend. It's doubtful, but still the opportunity is there. But that's a long time to just sit around and wait. And we have seen it throughout all sports for all of history that when a team sits and waits, they tend to get cold, and a hot hand can sneak up on them and take a series, or at least jump up early in that. So what we have today, first game, 1:32 p.m. So about an hour and some change from right now on ABC. You have the Astros hosting the red-hot Detroit Tigers in the first game, and that's going to be a standalone game for the first at least hour and a half. So if you still hate the Astros for what they did years ago, the Tigers are that fun team to watch and that team that you want to cheer for based on what they did the last 50 games of the year to make a run into the postseason after the All-Star break. Very excited to watch them on a national stage today.
Another thing that we have to admit that what has gone on before doesn't necessarily apply to October. But if you look at the course of the season, the Tigers can't hit. Vierling and Green have had okay years. Green even better than our St. Louis and Vierling, but they pitch. When they pitch, they manufacture runs and get a chance to win. So you would say if they don't have a great start, that they're in big trouble. But again, that's the regular season. Who knows what's going to happen in October? But that would be the prevailing theory.
The manager of the Astros during their cheating scandal was A.J. Hinch. The manager of the Detroit Tigers down in Houston today is A.J. Hinch. Funny, yep. History has a way of bringing those type of things full circle.
Yeah, and Hinch is a good manager, as he's proven with a team that is not nearly as talented as the Astros. So I think I think you're right. I think it sets up for some good drama.
You have on the mound today for Detroit, Tariq Skubal, who's going to win the American League Cy Young Award. 18 wins, 18-4 on the year with an ERA of 2.32. Finished the season with 228 strikeouts. I know, they're the 6th seed. They were the last team to clinch in the American League, but they did so early enough because the Twins kept falling off that they were able to set themselves up to have the best pitcher in baseball going in game 1 of the series. That, I mean, if you're a 6th seed, that's what you want to be able to have going for you in game 1 to set the tone.
They're overall, their pitching's pretty darn good, but you would have to think you really got to win this one. And we'll see if that proves out. I don't know. But you like your chances, certainly.
The A.J. Hinch to Houston storyline is a good one. The other American League matchup has another good storyline as well. Royals at Orioles. Orioles looking to win their first playoff games in 10 years. 2014, the last time they won a playoff game. You have the number 1 and the number 2 overall picks from the 2019 draft in the lineup for this game this afternoon. Jackson Holliday and Bobby Witt Jr. Going at it. Bobby Witt Jr. We'll see here in a few weeks if he did enough to become AL MVP. The numbers are all there. He put together just an outstanding season in his second full year with the Royals. And these are 2 young, dangerous teams playing in this round that have a chance to win it and get hot and go on to the next one.
The Royals win games, but they're a little offensively challenged as well. Tommy Pham has been leading off, and when he gets on base a couple of times a game, it kind of energizes and charges up that lineup. But if he takes an offer, it seems to, and I'm looking really just at the last couple of weeks since he's been leading off. They have a little bit of struggle scoring. You would think the Orioles have an edge, but if Witt and Sal Perez and a couple of others get it going, in particular Tommy Pham, who knows?
Tommy Pham not leading off for the Royals today, though. Yeah, he's dropped down in the lineup today. Saw those come out a little bit earlier today with that. Let me see if I can bring those lineups up to the game here quickly between the Orioles and the Royals. Tommy Pham batting 7th today. Michael Massey leading off and playing base. So Tommy Pham down in the 7-hole playing right field.
It shows you that the Royals have struggled to find a consistent leadoff hitter all year long. And today's lineup shows they're still searching.
And as I just kind of grab it here earlier, the only one, and what's crazy is nobody in that Kansas City lineup, it looks like, has ever faced Corbin Burns either. It has Tommy Pham is the only one 0 for 2 in their career against Corbin Burns. Another one that's another offseason move that pays off, and you go out, you get the big gun in one of the best pitchers in baseball. Corbin Burns starts the All-Star game for the American League and now starts game 1 for the Royals going up against Cole Reagans of the Kansas City Royals. That game today, 3:08 start time for the Orioles and Royals in Baltimore. Game 3. So this is these next two, these two National League games. These are the ones that you kind of are going to be wondering about and keeping a close eye on how the Mets and the Braves come out. Mets are going to travel to Milwaukee. That game at 4:32 this afternoon. Luis Severino against Freddie Peralta. You got to wonder what the bullpens look like, what the arms look like for both of these teams, and the Mets and the Brewers. But let's start first with New York against Milwaukee.
They got to get a good start for the very reason you pointed out, because their bullpen's exhausted. So they really need a good start. They've got a funky lineup too. They've got a couple of 230 hitters in the 2 and 3 holes, but they find ways to drive in runs. They don't have gaudy stats, but when Lindor gets on, and he has become a dominant player again, in particular in the second half of the year, and Lindor is the guy. If Milwaukee lets Lindor get loose, it can really change things. Similarly, though, the Brewers have been far more consistent than the Mets, and I think they've got an edge here today, except the Mets have been hot and found ways to win to get in. So this should be pretty spirited.
We should mention playoff rosters. They are you can change them every single round. And looking at some of the lineups and looking at some of the teams on here, a lot of former Cardinals making their way into the postseason this year. Of course, the Royals, as we mentioned, Tommy Pham on that roster.
Paul DeYoung.
And that Paul DeYoung is on the Royals roster as well. Harrison Bader made the Mets roster for the playoffs, even though he's a guy that's just kind of been not used as much, hasn't been too much of a force on that Mets team. But talking about playoff rosters, one shocking development: Houston left Justin Verlander off, so they are not going to go with Justin Verlander in these first 3 games of the postseason.
Yeah, I think they're looking at him as, he's at the end of the trail. We all know. I wouldn't be, if they get to the next round, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets put back on. We'll have to see about that. Or possibly, that last start might have just toasted his arm one last time. Don't know.
So the final matchup and another one shouldn't come as a surprise, but it's a huge blow to the Atlanta Braves. They will be traveling to San Diego for tonight's game. So that was one of the big things is who do you want to play first? I mean, the Mets kind of looked at it. They held all the cards yesterday for who they got to play in this first round matchup. Do you want to go from New York to Milwaukee? Do you want to go from New York to San Diego and play the next day? And with losing that second game and letting the Braves into the playoffs, the Mets go up to Milwaukee. Atlanta goes over to San Diego. Michael King starts on the mound for the Padres. Braves have not announced a starter yet for their game this afternoon. It was announced earlier this morning. Chris Sale will not be available in the first round for the Braves, so much so that they left him off the playoff roster too. So no Chris Sale for the Braves in any of these 3 games.
That's a huge blow. However, having said that, had he not had back spasms, he would have started the second game yesterday. So he probably wasn't going to be available anyway, probably, except we all know when it gets down to it, a win or go home game, everybody is available. So
they brought Ronaldo Lopez out on 1-day rest. He threw 6 innings on Saturday.
Yeah.
They had him throwing relief in game 2 yesterday. So I guess you hope that he's ready to go by Thursday to start that one if necessary, right?
I'd have to look at it, Joe. I'm not comfortable looking at their rotation, or I haven't looked at it. So I'm not sure. I trust your judgment.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking at knowing that he was one of the top pitchers for them all year, and knowing what he meant to that team, I would have to think that they're hoping he could go in a do or die game 3. So
that's logical.
Yeah.
Like I say, I haven't really looked at it and put on my managerial cap and see how I would want to affect the rotation. So I think you're probably right.
One of the things I love about this new format, Rammer, of the best of three, is for the most part, when you look around all of the games, all of for the series, there are only two teams that have listed starters for all three games. Right now, the Royals have listed. They have Reagan's going today. They have Seth Lugo tomorrow, and then they have old former Cardinal Michael Wacha going on Thursday. Where the Padres have Michael King going today. They have Joe Musgrove going tomorrow and Dylan Cease going on Thursday. Every other team starting tomorrow, TBD. Every single manager is going to go into these games looking at this and saying, all right, like we're going to see how we do in game one. And that is 100% going to determine which direction we go in game two.
And part of that is because they didn't have the luxury of setting up the rotations because they had to scramble to get in.
Yeah. So that's one where you pay close attention to those post-game press conferences with the managers for that. I remember 2 years ago doing the first year they did this. They had this expanded postseason when the Cardinals were in there playing the Phillies. And it was, I mean, down to, I think the Phillies kind of chose, okay, like they won the game in was it the ninth or extra innings, whenever it was, they won the game late. And I think that game two starter went back and forth multiple times as to who they were going to start. And it kind of all depended on what they did in that first game. And you got to think all these other teams are thinking the same thing. I mean, do the Braves go, you can't go with Ronaldo Lopez tomorrow, right? That can't be the case.
Unless you don't care about his arm.
Or unless he walks into the office and says, give me the ball.
Yeah, I think your first point is having him available for game three makes the most sense.
Right. So that is how things will look for today. Rammer, any predictions on any of these series?
Well, no, I just we skipped over the Padres. You mentioned the starter.
Oh, yeah.
The Padres, they're pretty times, Joe, when in some ways I thought that lineup underachieved occasionally because you go up and down that lineup when everybody's healthy. And to my knowledge, they're all, if not fully healthy, healthy-ish to where Mike Schilt can mix and match. You know, Solano, as a part-time guy, has been brilliant for them. Profar has had a career year. You know, you finally got Tatis back, you know, Machado. I mean, they're loaded. I think the Padres are, if they can get the starters, they don't have to be dominant. Just keep them in the game. I think the Padres are poised to challenge the Dodgers to win the National League pennant. I really like the Padres.
Tigers Astros starts in an hour, 3:08 for Royals and Orioles, 4:32 start time for Mets and Brewers, and then an 7:38 start time for the Braves and the Padres later tonight. Of the 8 teams in the playoff and the wild card round, 4 of the 8 managers in their first year in the dugout for their teams. 5 first-year managers overall, with Stephen Vogt, the manager for the Cleveland Guardians.
Think there's any tight cheeks out there?
I think there should be for especially if some of these guys advance to the next round. I think there should be there's going to be some front offices looking around and kind of wondering what to wondering
what are we doing here?
Yeah, this guy did it in the first year. Why can't we?
Right, exactly right. I'm just really excited to watch the game, see how it unfolds, see who puts the ball in play. And here's another thing. We've talked about style and the way the game has changed over the last couple of decades. And will teams be more willing, not only willing, but feel the need to play situational baseball, hitting behind the runner, putting the ball in play more? Or will they stick with the, as Tony La Russa would say, swing from their butt, everybody try and hit a home run? And if managers try and change, sacrifices, hit the opposite way, move guys along, steal more bases, can they be successful? I think stylistically, watching how these teams play will be really interesting.
Rammer, before we get out of here, just quickly, non-playoff related, the Arizona Diamondbacks, who missed out by one game earlier today on the Burns and Gambo show in Arizona, the owner of the Diamondbacks, Ken Kendrick, went on the air for an interview and blasted the signing of starter Jordan Montgomery, blaming himself for making the recommendation to the front office to go out and sign the lefty, saying, looking back in hindsight, it was a horrible decision to have invested that money in a guy that performed as poorly as he did. It was our biggest mistake this season from a talent standpoint, and I'm the perpetuator of that. Kendrick hoping that Montgomery will not opt in to his 2025 contract, which would pay him $22.5 million. If I'm Jordan Montgomery, I'm calling today to opt into that $22.5 million.
Well, yeah, perfectly within your rights, but not because of what he said.
I think there's a little pettiness behind. I think you could be a little petty behind it too.
Montgomery was horrible.
He was.
However, I think the owner's wrong. It made sense. I thought it made sense. It's not the owner's fault that Montgomery was horrible.
Right.
Now, the real question, here's why owners should keep their mouths shut. Unless you're a baseball guy, unless you're, I'd have to think of somebody, Derek Jeter when he was an owner and things like that. People who really played the game and understand. The real question is, we spent all this money. Why was he bad? That's what you got to figure out. And I don't have an answer for that. But if I was the owner, by God, I'd find out why.
Right. If you wanted him that bad, go get him in January and have him at your spring training in February. Have him at your, and that's more of a conversation for Scott Boras as to why you didn't have your guy ready. And Jordan Montgomery went ahead and made the move to get rid of him. So
yeah, you're right that perhaps missing the routine of spring training and that kind of preparation may have carried over to the entire season. That's certainly a possibility. I'd like to see a true objective academic breakdown of why Montgomery stunk so bad after being pretty darn good with the Cardinals.
We will, not sure when we'll be back, but we will be with you throughout the entire month of October for the postseason edition of Daily Cards Live, especially when news breaks around Major League Baseball. Rammer and I will be here to bring you that news, and brought to you every day by Munganast St. Louis Acura, and Rammer, also Royal Banks.
Royal Banks of Missouri, where better service means better banking. Don't forget, you can always give them a call, 314-212-1500, or go online to royalbanksofmo.com. Royal Banks, equal opportunity lender.
That'll do it for our postseason wildcard edition of Daily Cards Live. He's Bob Ramsey. I'm Joe Roderick. Talk to you next time right here on Claibs Online.
Munganast St. Louis Acura has the all-electric Acura ZDX. The ZDX can go up to 313 miles on a single charge, and the DC fast charging lets the ZDX gain up to 80 miles in just 10 minutes. When you lease an Acura ZDX, you can save up to $7,500 with a federal EV lease credit. Or you can buy the new ZDX and get 0.9% for up to 72 months. Come on in to Munganast St. Louis Acura and take a look at the new ZDX for yourself.